All right, we are live. Super grateful and honored and excited to have this conversation today with Cathy. And I've known Cathy for a very long time, and I was honored to have her submit her story. So let's go ahead and bring Cathy on. And I know for those of you guys that have tuning in, Facebook Live and myself have not been friends. It says connect in. I think Cathy might have made this the easiest. Oh, this is amazing. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Oh,
can.
it's
Can you
such a
hear me?
pleasure. I know Chris is watching right now. Chris is joined in for each of these Facebook Lives. And what's really funny is, I don't know, I think this is my fourth one. And there's been awful technical difficulties just to get someone to do exactly what you just did, which is just join with no difficulty. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
I did these all last year. I know the pain. I'm trying to tell them, turn it
Oh my
sideways,
gosh.
do this. So we changed how we're doing it now, but last year, yeah, it's always an
Well,
issue.
I appreciate that, and I'm just excited to catch up. I figure it'd be a good opportunity to,
Absolutely.
I've been wanting to do these conversations for so long. I mean, you submitted this story, I don't even know, a couple years ago
Oh
now at
my
this
gosh.
point, and now it's cool to see you have your whole
Mm-hmm.
book, and your book signing and
Mm-hmm.
everything that's happening for you. It's just really cool, and
Yeah.
obviously we're going to speak to that, but
Yeah.
the whole reason why I wanted to do these conversations is just to revisit some of these stories personally for me, and also for the grab community, and
Mm-hmm.
through loss I've gained, and I think you submitted this. It's got to be 2 years ago at this point, maybe three, four. I don't even
No
know.
more. It's
Maybe
I
four.
was thinking it
Yeah,
was 4 or 5,
yeah,
but
probably. I guess
definitely, yeah.
yeah, 2015. Yeah. So oh my gosh, yeah, 2015, 2016. Yeah.
Four.
And so this conversation is long overdue, because your chapter is really helpful. It's inspiring for a lot of great people because, for those that don't know, I mean, life happens. We all know life happens, and we understand circumstances take place, and
For sure.
I want to speak to that. But before we kind of dig into the
Mm,
story itself of through loss I've gained, about the accident that your sister had happened with the car accident, um,
mhm.
about you. I mean, you're obviously power woman right now, running show with Cutco, running show with Elevator, running show with Life as a Masterpiece, traveling all over the
More.
place, married,
Mhm.
Tony Robbins, like all of the things. Um,
Yeah.
Tell us, you if someone met you when you were like early teens, as a kid, I know
Mhm.
some of the people that follow the Grab community are younger audience too. Who was Cathy when she was kind of growing up?
Mhm. Growing up, and I'll say I was always striving to do really well younger because I wanted to be a good example. I was the oldest of 4 kids, and that was something, and it roots not because I'm such a kind person. It roots from getting into a lot of trouble when I was younger, being mischievous and like tripping my sister and doing things or calling them names at school and making them cry. And then my dad sat me down one day. I was in the second grade, and he I had the whooping of my life, and then he said, like, you are their, family, you are their big sister, you are the example, you need to be a leader. Start acting like it, because whatever you do, they're gonna follow. And I was like, hey. And that like stuck with me. Like when I look back, it's not like when I was, 8 years old, I was like, all right, let me go be a leader. But like it was almost like I never want this beating again, but subconsciously I really worked towards that. But I made some silly mistakes, got suspended my freshman year, got expelled my sophomore year, got expelled from high school, middle of my senior year. Um, and, the people who knew me back then probably would not have said like, oh, this girl is going to go, she's like, it was more of, she could go far, but she always finds a way to like screw up. And that was something that I always worked so hard to fight against, and it ate at me. because, I had everything going and I was valedictorian of my class, and then boom, lost it all. And then going and then lost it all, And so I'd say, for any of the younger guys, if you've ever anyone who's been in that place, that doesn't mean that that is your destiny, that you're always going to screw things up, because life really, when I became aware of that, I just what happened from there. It's been a really cool journey, and I'd say, obviously there's been down years, but I know that the person I was after 18, 19 really changed a lot. And the car accident I got in when I was 19, which I talk about in my book, is what really shifted, of stop doing these things, stop, like just partying too much or not caring or making, mistakes without thinking about them. And it really flipped the switch for me of like, what, our days are limited. And it is like, I just really felt like you have so much potential, Kat. And I remember having this like almost this vision of like disappointing like my dad, but it was like my creator, just like, I gave you all this and like you didn't even use it. And that like, oh, I never wanted that to actually ever happen. And I guess that's what, started my journey to
And what's
where I
the
am
age
now.
difference? You said you're the oldest of the four. What's the ages?
Every 2 years. So
Mm.
we're every 2 years. I'm 37. My sister who passed away would have been 35 this year. Michelle turns 33 next week. And my brother's like a little more than two, like 2.5 or whatever. But he turns 31 at the end of the
So
year.
Natalie
So
was the
yeah.
closest in age. Got it. Got it.
She
So
was.
so you and Natalie, because yeah,
Great
I see
sun
that.
shining.
The
So I'm like,
so Natalie was who you wrote the story about. And for those of you that haven't read, what I did is I
mhm.
consolidated some of the death stories into the newest book that I just put out, which is called Stories of Lessons Learned from Death. And I just wanted to have, like, I had all these stories and I just wanted to put them into smaller subcategory books, just to make it a little bit more easy for people to pick up and find these lessons. And every 100% of the proceeds go to PB&J for Tampa Bay, which everyone knows. And we've now provided just under 74,000 meals, which is pretty exciting. Um, and
That's awesome.
and one of the things you talked about with your sister, she was a teacher, is that right? Or she worked with kids?
Mhm. Yeah, she was a middle school teacher, and really breakthroughs with technology. She worked with special education, and was about to finish her doctorate
Mm.
in special education.
So some people know the story, some people don't. You were pretty much, I mean, you've already gone through some obstacles and some challenges. I mean, I know you in your Cutco terms, and I remember hearing you speak at a
Mhm.
conference, and I just remember, I don't even remember what conference it was. I just remember your team coming up on stage and hugging you and crying with you about a big obstacle that you were overcoming. This is probably going back probably 12, 13 years. And
Mhm.
your team, I was just so inspired to see all these young people surround around this power woman that I didn't know you at the time really well, at least. And everyone was just like, we've done it. Like, we got your back. What
Well,
was
thank you.
that? What was that situation? Because that was
Mhm.
even way before.
I honestly can't even, I don't, it would be two different things that could possibly be, but because I cannot remember. I remember those moments. I just
Yeah.
don't, it's been so long. It was either, when we hit, I don't know if you're on like it would be 2007, like year in banquet, or it would have been 2014 year in banquet, are the two big times that, but I know there's been so much along the way. But one was my cousin passing away, and my goal that year was to have my first $1 million year in company history. And we were going to do it together. He was helping me get advertising done in December and January. He stayed with me for a while to like help up set up our year. He lived in Puerto Rico, and yeah,
And
February
you did such a
in
great
February he
job
passed
at
away.
enrolling support, like raving fans that are
Mm,
willing to have your back during personal challenges. So if
mm,
anybody's listening here and you have,
yeah, absolutely.
a cousin die, you have a sister die, you have a hurricane come through, you have, you know, just all life crazy circumstances that don't define you, but you have, and you enroll a tribe of people that you're able to surround yourself with. How,
Absolutely.
where does that gift come from?
Mhm.
Where would somebody, if they're like listening right now, it's like, whoa, okay, I have some challenges right now, but I feel isolated. I feel lonely. I feel like I'm doing
Mhm.
this by myself. How
Oh,
would
that's good.
you enroll
Hmm.
that? Yeah.
Vulnerability. It starts with being vulnerable, I think many times. And I caught myself a lot in my life where I'm like, I'm not gonna let anyone know that I'm like having a hard time with this because I don't want them to think that I'm not Superwoman, right? And so I'm not gonna share. And what I learned and from coaches was just being vulnerable and being open. That doesn't mean tell them everything that's going on, but it's like, hey, I'm really having a difficult time, going through this process and or processing what just happened. And I know that we could do incredible things. And I will tell you, like myself by myself, like no way that I'm going to get it done. But us as a team, we can make some magic happen, but it's going to take a squad to get this done. And just like being open about that, where I was like, hey, I'm having a hard time processing through, and I'm really going to need some strength from you guys to keep me going. And there's going to be times where I'm going to want to like just not do anything or give in, and I need you guys to remind me why we started this journey. Like I normally do for you guys, I
Mm.
need that right now. And not many human beings will be vulnerable or say that they need something, right? That they don't have it all together. And that's definitely something that comes and shows up at different times in my life. And I'm reminded of like the power of that and like how that
Mm.
can really impact and the relationships it
Yeah,
bounds too.
that's such a beautiful answer because I think a lot of people need to hear that because most people could agree with this statement that vulnerability is viewed as weakness. So if like you're asking for someone for help, that means I'm inadequate.
Hmm.
I'm inadequate if I can't do it by myself. So, but
Right.
you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, and if everyone else is hearing you right, it's actually opposite of that. It's actually
You're
courage
stronger.
and strength. Is that right? Courage and strength comes from
Hmm.
vulnerability. Mm.
Absolutely.
So you enrolled all
Hmm.
these, your team, you enrolled these people, your tribe, and you were in a pretty good spot
Hmm.
when Natalie, right before Natalie got into the car accident. I mean, you
Yeah.
were you were pretty going into. I think you were right around the date with Destiny, or right before that, maybe is when the accident took place.
Um,
Maybe it was.
Yeah, well, so I had just come off, we were rocking in my business. We had four national
Yeah.
titles we had just won. And so we were going into 2013. We had just had 2012 was my biggest year in my sales company. And we had surpassed $2 million, which has never been done by that level of office and still hasn't been by that level of office. And so it was a big deal. And so we just came off that and we were getting ready for just another domination in 2013. And our season, in our business really is a summer season. We work with a lot of students, right? So we were just waiting for May, ready to go. It's mid-May. Kids are out of finals, ready to rock. And it was just a couple of days later. It was May 18th. I don't even know. I haven't even looked at the I
Sure.
don't like looking at that day, but right there, smack when everything's like gets the
Yeah.
craziest in our business. So let's talk about the most inopportune time. Like I'm going into where I earn 80% of my annual income is in these 3 months, and literally days from our season kicking off, which is always May 15th.
Mm.
Like this happens. And by the way, my team still won a national title that year, which was nuts because I wasn't really there for a couple months, and this one hit me hard, and I had to step away, and that's the most vulnerable I had been. And I said, I'm really struggling here. I said, I don't know how much good I'll do being in the office, where I don't know if there's ever been another time. Even my cousin passed. It was hard processing, but I was there working, I was grinding. And this time it really like froze me for a bit. And I was just like, I don't know, it was like stunned. Like I still couldn't believe every
Mm.
day. I'm like, wait, is this for real? And it was maybe because it was someone I saw regularly and we lived together, and my cousin was in Puerto Rico. And so it didn't hit me as hard, every day when I woke up that like she wasn't there. Um, yeah, that was a tough one. But the team just rallied and they carried the torch, and they
What
absolutely
would you
rocked it.
say is when I hear the saying speaking the unspoken, and one of the things I try to do, and it's almost like too presumptuous, but I try to speak the unspoken, or I try to draw out the unspoken,
Mm,
um, because dealing with some of that stuff myself is it's like that unspoken
mm,
emotion of you find out your sister was in a car crash by watching the news or you're seeing it on TV.
yeah,
Um, and in the moment, of course, it's like you can't process if it's real, if it's not real, I'm sure. And
right.
then everything unfolds that it's true, the hospital, the funeral, everything unfolds that like this is reality. Natalie's
Mm,
not here anymore. At least her body is not, right? And then you, if I
mhm,
remember correctly from the story, almost like take a sabbatical where you just like, I'm out. Like I gotta like kind
mhm,
of find
yeah.
myself and my center. And
Mm,
that's where the title of the story, Through Loss I've Gained. And
mm,
I love the analogy that your friend used, you used in the story with the Appleseed analogy in that story. If you could
mhm,
speak to that, I know it's the unspoken, and I could see, that your heart is coming out of your eyes right now,
mm.
and that's how we know it's about to it's about to penetrate the soul, and that's what you have such a
Mm,
beautiful gift in doing is helping people unlock their souls and unlock that heart.
mhm,
And I would love for you to speak that unspoken if you're open to it.
mm. Yeah, well, first off, I'm a crybaby anyway. Like I see a commercial that's like, a dad hugging his like little boy after a long day, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So like this is like waterworks. So we'll see what happens here. But so as far as speaking to like through loss I've gained,
Yeah, I'm
is that what
referring
you're referring to,
to.
Mike? Just I got
And
lost in
I kind
emotion
of
for a
rambled a
moment.
little bit. Well, really, I would love for you to speak to, how you were able to position yourself to gain through the loss. What is the unspoken truth of what
Hmm.
happened from the moment you found out my sister died in a car crash? I saw it on the news. To I've got to make sure that I don't die
Hmm.
with her.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it for me was really just when that happened, it was really, I took a lot of time to really think about like what's most important right now, right? Like, where am I spending my energy? We all have only a certain amount of minutes, hours, days, whatever in our lives. Like, we have a certain amount of time. And what am I doing with that time? And so, through her loss, I really started reflecting so much on where am I spending my time? If I look back, am I going to have regrets of like, why was I spending my time here when I could have been doing this? Like, how do I handle this? Right. And so, really took time to go, okay, like, I've got this much time. And I knew this from before, but it really hit hard of like, hey, reminder, reminder here. What's most important, and it was with when she passed where I really it hit home that like I needed to spend more time and be more intentional about getting my family
Mhm.
united, and having more frequent conversations. And we hadn't done that, and going into that next year I made like WhatsApp groups for like my dad's side of the family, my mom's side of the family, which to this day everyone's like constantly interacting on, like 20-30 messages a day every single day, where prior to that we spoke two
Yeah.
or three times a year, like in terms of like interactions we had when we saw each other in the holidays or something or someone's birthday. So it really like it was a switch in terms of, okay, what can I do? And I'm still awful. I'm like, I need to like actually have live conversations more and call my sister because she loves to talk on the phone, and check in on my brother because he loves to collaborate and go over all these great ideas. And I need to take time to do that, not just on WhatsApp, but actually that's the next step. As I went into this year, I was like, I've really got to do better with that. And so I told my husband, I was like, we should do like a Zoom call with the family, like even once a month would be a win right now, just to catch up. And it's like, what are the wins? What can we celebrate? What can we put into prayer for you? And be able to even do that would be really exciting. Um, And so that's the next evolution of it. But man, it was so cool. And we made a commitment. And after she passed away, trips that we were like one day, it was like, no, we're gonna enjoy now and plan for later. And we are going to go on a family vacation once a year, no matter what. We're gonna do something together. And we really committed to Thanksgiving, not allowing the fact that I was moving, or my sister moved away. She got married. And so, Michelle's in Virginia now. She's not here. What are we going to do? We always spent Thanksgiving. And, we made a commitment to say we're going to be with each other always
Mm.
Thanksgiving, no matter what. That was our holiday and just being grateful. And we said, we're going to spend that together. So I moved so my sister moved away, but we still found a way to be together, and they drove down for Thanksgiving. And then I moved to Texas. My whole family flew to Texas for Thanksgiving the next year. And then my brother got married. And so it was this trickle of like everybody leaving, but we were like, nope, like this is not going to be an excuse as to why we don't do this. So since then, we rotate every year. So this next year is back to Puerto Rico. So excited about that. We haven't been to Puerto Rico since before my sister passed. That was our last Thanksgiving, I believe, that we all had together. So the rotation has made itself back to Puerto Rico this year. But yeah, things like that, and just like, okay, when can I do a fun trip with my siblings, or when can I get time with my sister, and like let's go have a girls trip, and just being more focused on that. Where before it was
Mm.
like, oh, I'll see them in the holidays, and it was like, no, I want to create
Mm.
memories with my family, and I want to make sure that we're being intentional about when we get together. So that's been really that's probably what I feel like I gained, just a perspective that was more aligned with who I was and who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be remembered for. And so there was definitely a larger sense of alignment, and that's what I really
And if
gained
someone's
there.
listening, and by the way, I love that. I wrote down two things. I wrote enjoy the now while planning for the future, and I love that. Well, what a powerful quote to live by. Enjoy the now while planning for the future. I love that. Um, and then the other one is creating memories intentionally. I love those two concepts. So that's really rich, and I'm sure that could land with some people. Was there some resentment, do you feel, or not resentment, resistance would be a better word, resistance from anyone in the family or during this time frame? So for those that are tuning in, you think about your sister dies in a car crash, older sister comes in and says, "We're going to get the family together. We're going to do this, even though we haven't done this before." Was there any resistance in the sense of like, "Hey, Kat, like we're not ready to, do this whole family thing that you want to do right now. I know you want to do it, but we're not ready for that." And if there
Hmm.
was, like,
Yeah.
how did you stand your ground to say, you know what, how do you not surrender and say, screw you guys, I'm just going to work on me. I'm going to figure this out on my own. I'm going to just dive into the
Mm,
business. I'm going to dive into personal
yeah.
growth or,
Well, Mike, I'll tell you something. This is not going to be the same for everybody, because I was very blessed to have a family that was just like
mm,
so eager for that, and not everyone is, and I know that. So I definitely counted my blessings, that they were just like, at first it was like, well, we don't have the money, we don't have whatever, and then I was like, all right, well then I'm flying you guys. Can you take the time off? Can you afford to take the time off? Can you call in a day and I'll take care of everything? That was our first one. I paid for them and flew out to Napa to celebrate, and took care of my dad and my sister to be able to all be together and not have a barrier of entry. And then after that, it was like, okay, we'll all travel once a year. So put that in the budget plan ahead. So we have that, and did all, does all the family want to like be together, do stuff all the time? Like, probably not. But like I'm just really blessed. My family, we grew up with not, we didn't have much growing up. We grew up very lower income. So what we had was each other. And so that's a bond we've always had since we were younger. So getting older, it was hard to be all, but we all had our own lives. And that just happened because life happened. And I went to college and then went to college, and we didn't keep that. We didn't spend the time. Our hearts were still always so connected, but we didn't spend the time
mm.
until after Natalie passed. But since I was younger, that's what we had. Like what we had was each other, and we'd play games at the house and sing to NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and do performances for my parents. And like we have a lot of fun together. My family really loves to spend time together, and
I'm
I
sure
know
your
that's a
brother
huge
loved
blessing.
the dancing to Backstreet Boys version of that, right? Yeah.
Oh, he did. He was like 5 or 7 at the time, so he was like loving it. And then my dad's like, beat him up, beat him up. I need him tough. And I was like,
That's
he can
great.
do both.
Uh,
He can sing and dance
that's
and be tough,
I love that.
and
I
he
love
does.
that. And it's so true because I love what you said. Like, hey, I was blessed. I had, my family was willing to, I guess, just willing. They were willing to kind of explore this and be receptive to this, essentially this growth journey of like, hey, we're going to do this together. We're not going to separate during this. I mean, in some families, death is an unspoken topic. It's like, yeah, we're all moving on. Like, we're not even going to talk about it. Like, don't even
Mm.
worry about it. And it breaks my heart because that person's life there's so many gifts that came from that life, and it's like we don't it's there is an unspoken there that some families choose not to talk about. And I love that you had the courage to say, hey, not only are we going to celebrate our life, but we're going to make it a tradition. Like every year we're going to continue this tradition, we're going to rotate, make sure we're inclusive with this. And I also love that because let's call it what it is, you started selling Cutco knives when you were late teens, and 20 years later, you're still with the same company, and people can easily say it's like, oh, that's nice. It's like, it must be nice to be able to fly people over here and there, and like you have the resources to be able to do that. That must be nice. But the fact is you've been working and grinding and hustling,
Work my
for
butt off.
years, decades now, to be able to have the means to be able to do that. And a lot of times these young people hear, oh, I want to be able to fly my family. I want to be able to have destination visits. I want to have all this, but
And they should
and they
all
want
sell
it now, but
Cutco.
they want it like, oh, I'm 22, so I want it now, right? I want to have, but then they don't get it. And
Yeah.
I love what you're saying. It's like, I have that in my 30s, but I had to work really, really hard
Mhm.
through my late teens and early 20s to be able to build a beautiful life. And the patience was there. So
For sure.
So what is so Cathy, tell us, and then we can start wrapping up. But tell us this Appleseed conversation that you had with that you put in the chapter through Loss I've Gained and in the book. And I remember you told me about this concept. I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, you met this gentleman at
Mhm.
Date with Destiny with Tony Robbins and formed a business partnership. Oh,
Yeah,
Life
at
Mastery.
Life. Oh
Two
no, two
separate.
separate
Okay,
people.
separate.
Yeah, so that's a separate person. But Life Mastery is where I met the young man that I had a conversation with, who does a lot of personal development down in Mexico. And so we had just been chatting, and he's like, "What do
Is it
you
worth a
do?" And
shout out
and
to
I
this
was
guy?
talking. I said, "I'd love to label myself."
It's not worth a shout out. Okay.
He doesn't want. But I told him, I said my dream title would be to be a maximum potential finder. So I just feel like we all have like so much in us, and the potential to like be and do, so much, like, and whatever that is for different people. I'm not saying like we got to be on the go all the time, but like there's a grandeur, like inside that needs to shine in whatever capacity. And as we were chatting, he's like, yeah, like a seed. And he started sharing. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. And we got into this whole conversation basically about, like if I take a seed or an apple seed, and I'm like, okay, what is this? Like, describe this. Or if I ask the seed, he's like, what is this? What are you? He's like, describe yourself. Like, I'm brown. I have a hard shell. Like, I'm a seed. Like, I'm going to be the best seed I can be. And they think they're supposed to be a seed, but that seed is supposed to be planted in the right environment and nourished. And when that happens, all of a sudden, you have something that starts growing. And it no longer is just a seed, but it's transformed into something that starts, producing some oxygen and has life, is giving life to things around it. And again, if it's in the wrong environment, if it's not taken care of, it can just die.
Mm.
But if you continue to grow it and nourish it and make sure it's where it needs to be, and I was sharing, actually, I spoke this Saturday at the banquet, and I was talking a little bit about this, and I said, you have my husband had shared with me, he's like, a honeysuckle needs cold weather. And I was like, oh, then you've got like a sunflower, which is the opposite, but needs a lot of sunlight and does need water, where a cactus needs like dry heat, and it's just so interesting how all these beauties, like they need different environments. And so really learning to identify what environment I needed for my growth, right? And I share that with other people. because when you have the right environment, and I talk about this in my book, that's where you have the capability to grow into what could be this enormous, incredible apple tree that's providing food, nourishment, oxygen to everything around it. But some people think they're just, oh, well, I was made to be a seed. And I don't believe that. I believe that that seed is supposed to be a gorgeous, huge tree. But they just never knew
Mm.
that that was possible.
So that's so rich because I love what you said. I'm just going to be the best seed I possibly can be because that's all that we know. It's like, this is what I know. I'm just going to be the best at it. But realistically, when planted, put into the right circle of influence, the right environment around the right people, you could really bring the best out of that and then provide more nourishment, using your word, to others around you. And I love that. And it seems like
Right.
that's what you're doing right now with tell us about Life is a Masterpiece.
Yeah. So this was a fun project. So challenging. One of the hardest things I've done, but I'm so glad that it's out there now and impacting so many people. I've been blown away by all of the responses, people who have read it, testimonials, messages I've been sent. It's just like, oh my gosh, so overwhelming because I just wanted to put everything that I ever taught, and what I had learned. I wanted my like great great grandkids to one day be able to access it from my words, and I wanted to have that all somewhere. And that's what it was. It was a legacy piece. There was nothing else to it, but just having that in case something happened to me, that all the teachings would be somewhere. Because I had never recorded them all. I don't have everything. But that is where I put everything so that anybody could access, say, I'm gone tomorrow, like
Yeah.
my legacy continues. So
And by the way, for those that haven't
this is
for
all
those
very
that
emotional.
haven't checked out the book, it is fantastic. I had the privilege of, getting a chance
Thank
to get
you.
an early, sneak peek at it and just devoured. I mean, I devoured the first
Yeah.
half of the book just real quick because it was just so, it brought me in. The stories were fantastic. I love the story with Tyler. And, because I was there, like kind of behind the scenes,
Yeah.
like observing from the outside and then like hearing and reading the inside viewpoint of
Yeah.
what you really have been able to do for such a great dude who is this punk kid who's now like, this really.
Yeah. And by the way, next Sunday, if there's anyone that's around the Denver area, on Sunday coming up, we're actually doing a book signing at his penthouse in downtown. So they just moved from their house to a penthouse. It's gorgeous, and it's going to be a really
So
fun
cool.
celebration, and like kind of full circle. Because for me, it like started with him as a new manager back in 2005, and just like looking at that journey. It's pretty incredible, and seeing him like the transformation, and what happened, and watching him through all those years, so incredible. So I'm stoked to celebrate next Sunday the book at his place.
That
That'll be
is
really
fun.
fun. But yeah, so the book, by the way, I wanted to share with you and anyone who reads it. If any of you with a family, you could do this with a family or any group of people that you lead. So if you have a team, you have a team at work, or you want to have like a little book club that you guys do together. Um, there is even if you read it and they never read it, but you wanted to teach about it, you could tell some of the stories maybe from the book or not. But what I did is I put all the exercises. We just finished the workbook. I got it today, so I can email it over. But we're gonna post it on social media, and people can put their email and they can download the free workbook that goes along with it. But what's great is you can actually, there's 12 chapters. And so for 12 weeks, you guys can each week, knock out
Nice.
one of the exercises and talk about it. And it's just so healthy because it's conversations about, the first third is your vision. What do you want? Why do you want it? Then identifying like what's most important now, how to make a game plan, and just like really being intentional, knowing what it's going to take and putting things in place and putting it on the clock, like when those things will get done. And then the last third is your success and really walking through a success formula. So knowing like enlisting that tribe that lifts you up, right? Having the proper accountability, having the right environment. I talk about the different types of energy, your physical energy, your emotional energy, your spiritual, physical, and really go through how to impact those areas of your life as well. So there's a lot of great stuff,
Mm.
but just the exercises, if you do the exercises, with a group of people, you'll blow them away because it's stuff that we don't do normally day to day. And we were very spoiled to bump into a company in our early years who really was focused on personal growth and development. And we were blessed to be and to enter that world so early where others don't ever or don't until their 40s or 50s or 60s, you know? And so I'm very thankful that I got to be exposed early. And I'm so excited for people to not just keep this to themselves, but I'm excited for people to share it with the world. Like, do the workshops, get your family, do it at one night a week, family night. You guys talk about this stuff. Like, what do you want to create? What do you want to design? I mean, think about the possibilities of that and how beautiful that could be for our world if people started talking more about that, you know? So
Love
anyway,
it.
as you can tell, I'm like really
Absolutely.
excited
Absolutely.
about that.
So, and once that's, once you have that finalized, it seems like you're about to launch it. Where would people be able to find this information of this worksheet?
This will be, so there'll be two things. So if they go to my website as of tomorrow morning, it will have a pop-up that they can enter their email for a free ebook on Live a Life You Love. And even just doing that, it's 7 steps to designing your life as a masterpiece. And it goes through the design exercises. Some of them are in the book because I made that ebook over a year ago before I was even going to write a book. I wasn't going to write a book until way later. So obviously it's stuff that there's going to be overlap on that. So the Live a Life You Love is just it's really 7 steps to how to design something. So that's really cool. So that will be accessible as of tomorrow. And then
We'll put that
workbook,
link. We'll put that
I need to see
link when
where
you
we're
said your
gonna put that
website. We'll
if
put that in there.
Cathy Christen.
Cool.
Yeah, CathyChristen.com. Absolutely. And I can type that on here, but it's CathyChristen.com. All C's, CathyChristen, like the boy named Chris or girl named Chris, CH. And the number 10 is how you spell Kristen. So we will have it up tomorrow morning. And then the actual workbook that goes along with the book, that will be added to Amazon it should be added by tomorrow. But that'll be put on Amazon where people can also get, as long as we don't have complications doing it. But it'll be accessible on Amazon, and it'll be a download that people can have with their book or with their, if they do Kindle, that way they can really do all the exercises because it's 48 pages. So, I mean, there's a lot. The book looks big, but it's, as you know, it's a really fast read. It's all stories, but there's exercises for you to do, and there's space for that in the book, but now we just put it to the side as well.
And so what's next for Cathy?
What's next for Cathy? So give me 1 second. Yeah. So what's next for Cathy? So right now, we've got, a lot of stuff coming out with Life as a Masterpiece. I do have a 8-week coaching program that'll be getting advertised in the next couple of weeks. And so I'll be doing that with a group of people. We already have, I believe, 4 of our 10 spots filled just because people have been asking, like, can you please do this again? So we're going to start doing a little bit more coaching as I'm working on another book. And this is one that I'm most passionate, and this is what I'm excited to do forever, is help people start businesses and really learn how to have time and money freedom, because I want people to have the time to do things they want to do and have the resources to be able to do those things with their family and go on adventures and live a life they love. And for that, most people, I feel, make an excuse of, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. Those are the 2 excuses I hear the most as to why people can't go have fun. And I want people to experience like the most fun ever and have their best life. So thestartgirl.com is currently being made. Tomorrow morning, I'm meeting with my design team. So we will be unrolling that, and I'll be working on the book called Start, Simple Guide to Starting Your First Business. So all of that will be coming out here in the next couple months. So super excited about that. And then just continuing to give back. If people want to learn about how to take care of themselves and like just holistic interviews, every Tuesday morning, tomorrow morning, I'll be on interviewing one of my coaches. She's been like a spiritual guide and coach for me for over 6 years. She's unreal. We will be live at 11 a.m. Pacific or Eastern time. And every Tuesday I have a different someone who helps with spiritual energy, mental energy, emotional energy, or physical energy, giving tips and keys that are very holistic on how to live your best life. So definitely you can join us every Tuesday morning. We're live at 11 a.m. Eastern. And definitely, I would say social media. Check those out because we we constantly on my story, I'm putting whatever's happening, whatever's coming up. So that's the best way to be most up to date with what's happening, would probably be my
Well,
story.
amazing. I'm so grateful
Thank you
that
for
you
having me.
took the time, and I'll post the links and that way anyone can follow
Mm,
up. So, Cathy, your story and grab tomorrow. Stories, lessons learned from death, and
thank you so much.
we look forward to staying connected. So, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. Cool.
Appreciate it.
See you soon.
Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
it's
And
my
thank you for
pleasure.
all you do. Yeah,
Bye.
absolutely. Bye.
So everyone else that's following along, I'll post the links for CathyChristen.com. You get the ebook, her story in this book here, as mentioned. Through loss, I've gained. It's really a fantastic story, and it'll leave you saying, "Wow, what am I doing? Where am I right now? And what do I want to do?" And you could just see Cathy living her best life. So, and 100% of proceeds again go to PB&J for Tampa Bay. We're now up to over 74, just right at 74,000 meals, and we want to reach our goal of expanding to 100 locations across the United States. And our mission is 500 meals at 100 locations. That would be 600,000 people and meals that we could provide each year. And it's cool to think it just started with 300 sandwiches one Sunday morning, and now it's grown nationally. So our next feeding frenzy locally here in Clearwater area is going to be in February, but we are looking to expand. So if you're interested, please let us know, and just continue living your best life. So thanks for tuning in. We appreciate Cathy. If you're interested, we'll have our next conversation. It's going to be on actually tomorrow is going to be our next conversation with another author from Real Stories, Real People. So get ready for that, and I'll post the link tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Thanks for joining.